Alright, this is a video that I am super excited to make. Something that I've wanted to do basically since I wanted to have a Fummins. And I'm finally going to get it done. So when I put this Fummins in, or the Cummins in my Fummins, I used the HX35 that came on it and rebuilt it. Works good. I think it works as good as it should for a HX35 turbo. And I put together two of the pipes that were used on the Power Stroke, and I made it work. But it's not my ideal turbo setup. So in this video, you're going to see me put in a set of diesel power source compound turbos with the electronic VGT with an exhaust brake. Now I can't wait to see how it works and how it looks compared to this, because you know this is all temporary. Went with this cheap tube because I knew it was temporary, and then that pipe, I didn't really care how I welded it. And if you've seen my video on making the cold pipe, you might wonder why I didn't also make a hot pipe, and this is why. So let's get at it. All right, here's the compound kit I went with. It's made by Diesel Power Source, and this is a S362, I believe, Bog Warner. I'm not sure if it actually gives the size on it or not, but yeah, there it is. 6271 VGT, some big long number, turbinator. And then the actuator is electronic, so this will give me an exhaust brake. And it came with a little bit of input stuff. I'm not sure if I'm going to end up using all of that or not, but I have it. Came with new oil lines. Came with a hot pipe that looks pretty slick, I have to say. And then they sent me a new downpipe, and I'm gonna show you the downpipe I have next to that one, and you're gonna laugh because I fabled the one I have just out of the old Power Stroke downpipe and the Dodge downpipe and a bunch of eBay V clamps, and it's ugly as sin. So that'll make for a good side by side. And then this turbo is the primary or secondary, I don't know what you call it. There seems to be some debate on which one's which, but it's a Bog Warner 475. So it's a T6, I believe. On this side, there's not a lot of writing on it. I don't know. This thing is big and freaking heavy though. So I'm thinking it'll be a good big turbo. And then this kit came with this charge pipe, and they sent a wrap for it, which is kind of cool. I've never done that before, and hope that stuff doesn't make me itch. And then the appropriate boots, new oil lines, bag with all new bolts and gaskets, and then the electronics. And this is a little intimidating, but this electronic VGT has its own little computer box I got to figure out where to mount. And then it comes with its own wiring harness and its own sensors. So it's got an exhaust back pressure sensor in there, and then a boost sensor so it knows what to do with the vanes. And then it's got just a bunch of wires, and comes with a little on-off switch, which I'll be using the one in my dash instead. And then a USB cable so you can plug your laptop into it. And looks like it's got a relay and a fuse. So I'll have to figure out just where to put all that stuff. But that's the kit that's going on. And as you can see out the door, it's very late and I'm very tired. So got it all unboxed and calling it a night. And we'll get to work on this tomorrow. So I'm doing my bench prep, and one of the directions is install the small turbo on the exhaust manifold using blah 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 blah. And as it turns out, to get this to fit makes for quite the challenge. So on the bottom down here, there's a metric bolt, and to torque that, I needed 2 wobblies, a really short wobbly and a crow's foot to even get on it, and it was still a challenge. You can see if I put that in there, it's like, yeah. And then the one over here is the same bolt, and I used the same thing because you can't get a socket on it. You might be able to get a short one on it, but I went to do it, and I could get the socket on it, but then I couldn't get the extension on the socket. And then up here, the way that this comes out, you can't really use a bolt in here because you can't get the bolt in. And to come from this side, you would need a bolt that was exactly the right length, so they give you a stud. And then on this one, you can just use a normal bolt, and it's really easy to torque. So that was quite the little torquing challenge, but it's installed. I think this piece is ready to go on the truck. And here's my first side-by-side. And this is the hot pipe that Diesel Power Source sent me, which is all shiny and well bent and nice. And this is the hot pipe made from 273 pipes that I didn't realize was stainless when I was welding it, and those welds are just nasty, but it worked for, I don't know, 10,000 miles or so, and sealed up. My alternator was hitting it right there, so that eventually would have been a leak. And I think from the angles on this one, if I line those up, my alternator will clear the new one, so that's good news. Here's the second side-by-side. Actually, yeah, there we go. All right, here's the second side-by-side. This is the downpipe DPS sent me. That's the one I fabbled together. Fabbled? I don't know what the word is. See, I made some cuts to bend it and re-welded them, and the HX35 has this tiny little 2.5-inch output, so I went from 2.5 to 3, and then I used a piece that was meant for a different exhaust to go from 4 to 3 or something like that, and then welded it here and here, and this one is just 4-inch the whole way. I'm a little afraid that depending on where that turbo sits, I'm not going to have enough exhaust pipe because this one's kind of a little bit shorter, but if it sits back a little bit further, maybe everything will line up. I don't know. They said this thing was going to need modification. They didn't say what. So I'm thinking from the looks of that, depending on where those turbos sit, it could be a little or it could be a lot. All right, got the old turbo out. It's an HX35. There's no play in it. This thing's in really good shape. Only has about 5,000 miles on it since I rebuilt it. It's actually going to go on a 12 valve next that my dad owns, and his has got a couple 100,000 miles on it, so it should be just a direct replacement. Just have to reclock it and then hook up the wastegate actuator properly. I don't know how the 12 valve one's different. I'm a Fummins guy. And this is the new one, and the contrast between that wheel and that wheel is just incredible. So for comparison's sake, if I put caliper up here and I make it the size of this wheel, which is going to be just a little bigger than that. Let's see here. About roughly there. And then I can put it up to here. You can see there's a big difference on that side. It's a good, I guess I'm going from 56 to 62 millimeters, so it's like a 6 millimeter bigger wheel. Hope this thing spools, because this one spooled perfectly, so hopefully that turbinator will spool equivalent to this one, and then just keep building boost, because this one was only building 16 psi max, and I'm hoping for 30 out of these compounds with my stock injectors. Really hoping I don't go over 40 so I don't have to start worrying about blowing my head gasket. We'll deal with that when the time comes. Don't think you're supposed to be this close to wild animals. You guys are just not fearful, are you?
Well, I met this girl about 2 years ago, the sweetest can be and as cute as they come, and she kept coming back around to say hi, but it took me quite a while to know that she was into me. So I called her up and I asked her out for 1 day, 2 dates, and then some more. Then the day came when we took the same car. I looked at her and then I asked again.
And here goes my first pull with the compound turbos. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this EGT or VGT or electronic controlled, whatever the hell it's called, thing. Let's go see how it does. So I'm just gonna do a pull up this tiny little hill. Probably won't get out of second gear, but we'll see how it does, because you can see that the RPM start to go up, the boost starts to go up. 5, 7, 9 psi, 10. Hit second gear, boost is still there. I'm about 10% throttle is all, and it just builds boost and pulls. How sweet is this? With my HX35, I would have been into it about 50% throttle. And this, I'm just barely pushing on it. We're getting up to a respectable speed for this road. I yell at teenagers for going faster than this, so pulling a camper I probably shouldn't. And then this one goes down slightly. And I'll get into it. About 20%, just 5, 6. Doesn't really need to build much because we're already going that speed. So I'm tickled shitless with this for just around town kind of pulling. This is amazing. I'm sitting right at 18,000-ish pounds GVW between the pickup and this fifth wheel, and with a little bit of tranny tuning, this thing pulls it pretty well. That's 45 miles an hour. Well, I'm pretty damn happy.